Right, Robert.
Sir,
Once in a lifetime event.
the eclipse.
Oh, you got yeah, okay. I can't fool you, but on this episode of Real Estate Chat
It's
with,
going to be cloudy. Don't worry about it. It doesn't pass through here. You got to go to Niagara Falls.
wow, hey, if it is, if that is what
I saw
happens,
it once in 1962 at my grandpa's place in Peterborough, so it's no
well,
problem.
there's multiple times, and sometimes it's going to end up over the ocean, and hopefully we'll get the next one where we're at in the Toronto area. I guess it's 99.99%. It's not totality. So
You can watch the movie and it won't hurt your eyes.
then we turn this into an eclipse show. On this episode of Real Estate Chat with
Yonder Perez.
and Robert Eid. We're going to be talking about the totality of March 2024 results. As far as I'm mumbling, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board goes, Robert, if we were to summarize it for our real estate chat viewers who have liked, subscribed, and are too excited for what's going to happen on Monday that they don't want to listen to the whole thing, but they will anyway, what can we summarize March 2024 in real estate as?
Sales are off, listings are off further, and the stats are skewed by our favorite thing, underreporting of the relist terminate crazy listing strategy.
And that's that. Thanks for joining this episode. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna load up we're gonna load up the chart here if I can't figure out how to do that. Okay, here we go. Let us start then with talking about how the prices look because Robert, you and I talked about where you thought the prices were going, and I think we can all agree that they should be skimming at least over last year's prices. But where are we now? We're over here, and it does seem like that's what's happening. What's going to happen the next couple of months when interest rates supposedly start to decrease and confidence returns to the market?
Okay, first off, interest rates are not going to decrease and they're going to start disappointing. So this is going to be half of a repeat of last year. However, we're skimming along. The next chart will show it more clearly, ahead of where we were a year ago. And so I've got one that deletes the boom, boom, boom. But what we still have is up in the top yellow, second highest March. We're 14% off the maximum March. We're up 1.17 from a year ago. We're off 16% from the maximum peak. Yeah, you can see it right there. And there was a previous peak last year. We're off 6% from that. And we're up 1.66 from last month. Now, are any of those significant? No, because most people are looking at a much smaller market that they want to purchase in, be it Pickering or Cordes or Mississauga or Brampton or C4 or something or other. So go to the next one.
All right, let's look at it through the school year lens.
Yeah, now this shows us where we're right in line with where we were in 2023 and 2022. It's just sort of edging along, but not falling. The significant thing is it's not falling. If sales are off by 30% and interest rates are supposedly so high, then prices should be falling, but they're not. So that's the key. They're not.
Why do you think that is for any of our real estate chat viewers who are
Okay,
wondering?
because there's a diminished supply, which we'll get when we get to listings, we'll see exactly that the number, like compared to the boom, okay, inventory snapshot at the end will tell you something, but it's the number of listings that are available at a given time at any price range, any area is diminished by 1/3 because so many of them are held off the market doing this strategy of I want 5 offers in 10 days, so I'm going to show it, but I'm not going to let you buy it. Anyway, so it's supply and demand always, always, always tempered by consumer confidence. And right now, there are enough people that don't care about interest rates or think 4%, 5%, 6% is not bad. And they want to live in a certain neighborhood and there's only 3 houses, so they got to do it.
Well, so I guess we could describe it as a resilient market. Let's look at how resilient it is when you consider the number of homes that are higher priced that
Okay,
pull up.
over $2 million, that's the highest category we have. So we're showing almost 7% share for over 2 million. Now, that's not as much as it was, but it's in keeping with the average. So there's many, many more homes that are worth $2 million than there were 10 years ago. But uh, we can't say that it's an isolated buyer's entry-level market only. So that's where we go. The sales are the next one. And the sales going on a January to December basis say that we are 31.2% below the 10-year average. We're the 22nd best March. So there's nothing to shout out about there. So with such a lousy market, how come the prices aren't falling? There's where we keep saying the same thing over and over. Next one shows it from the school year perspective, where we're right skimming along the bottom. Like it's the second lousy, the only lousy ones compared to it. So we're 27% off of a hot market, 31% off a normal market. Look at the straight line where the average is. We're way under. Interest rates are holding people back and giving people an excuse to be held back.
So how's this
Okay,
inventory looking?
inventory. This is where the question comes up. What is the only metric that counts? And that is this: inventory, number of months, inventory to solds. How many sold? Doesn't matter whether it's up or down. And the inventory, that's a true snapshot. You can't mess with it. So they're 1.9. Now, this is not less than 1, but this is certainly not 4. This is a tight market. And supply demand are shown at the same time, added together and subtracted from each other right there. 1.9.
And you coined a pretty witty way of describing it. What did you say about it? What did you say about it if you could describe this market?
Well, it's a seller's market because there are so few sellers. We have diminished buyers, but we have diminished sellers that outstrip them. Supply and demand are always the factors.
Interesting.
Okay, we go to the next one. We look at inventory. We've seen many, many times. Now, compared to the 10-year, we're right on. But the last 10-year was a boom. So nothing hung around. Nothing was sticking. But if we go back to 2008 to try and include 16 years worth of inventory, we're down by 17%. But 2008 was a lousy year. Things fell apart. Specs were dumping. It was terrible. So maybe that's too much time. So it's not inventory. It's not the number of listings. It's the number of new coming, which we go to with the next one. And then we subtract from that. Okay, so the blue line is what is reported, the number of listings, which is 17% below what the 10-year should be. So that's not hot. It's not oversupply. But now when you subtract the do-overs, which are either 18.5% or 22% of that total, 2450 on 13.1 or something or other, it's a significant difference. 32%. The number of choices is reduced by 32%. And there is the thing that's never shown in any official report.
Well, so basically,
What
you're saying, Robert, is that it's not necessarily the active listings, but it's what's being introduced into the market that's keeping these prices the way they are. Despite the spring market where we expected a lot of new listings to come in, it did. But are you saying that?
No, they didn't, because you can't count them twice.
Well, not as many as we would expect, is what happened.
Well, keep going until you come to the TRREB chart. The next one, okay, it's too hard to read. The next one is their pictogram. And that orangey line, there's not a lot of listings. And that's when you're including the double counted. 18 to 22% is double count. It should be below the brown, whatever that color is, black or brown. And supply is the problem. Supply is the problem. So if we go to the next one, we got the sales to listing ratio. And the red line is the normal way of taking it. The amount that they say, 13,120, the amount of terminates, 2430, is 18%. But if we do this ratio of the number of sales, which is constant, to the reduced number of new listings, we see that we're up at 61% sales to listing ratio, which is not 100%, which is not 90%, but it's up at the edge of seller's market territory. And I think anybody who's actively looking would say it's seller's market territory. Anything I want to look at is either gone, sold conditionally, or 5 offers on it tomorrow. So it's a seller's market. Why? Because there's not enough inventory. Okay, SLR, this is the same one. You can see it coming down. You would think normally go up in the spring, but this is using the double count method. Okay, so I try and figure this out. The next one is where I try and figure out how does it all add up together. And if you take last year's inventory, last month's inventory, and add the new listings that they say, subtract the relist that they say, subtract the sales, and then if only 30% of the terminates, 3,500, are relisted, you can add it up and it almost adds up to the 12,468 that they say. So there's something sticky, and why they don't report it is their own reason, nothing I can figure out without saying bad things. And I don't want to say bad things because I'm always in a good mood.
Especially today.
Okay, so days on the market, which is a demonstration of the relist phenomenon that obviously I hate. So the blue line is the listing itself that does sell. How long was it on the market? I'm sorry, the property on the market. So every iteration of it, 29 days, which is pretty good. You can see it plunging down from where it was before, but it's still way up above, 36% above where it was for 5 and 10 years. And the pink line is the listing itself, also plunging, but still a little bit higher than what it was during the 5 and 10 year boom that we went through. So nobody's complaining about a property staying on the market for 20 days, average. It's 2 weekends and a bit more. Some of them are doing it on purpose. A few sell them 2 days right away. Some tell them first day. So there's nothing wrong with the market. Nothing wrong with the market. What's it done to prices? This is where we try and add in inflation. And my saving grace for the whole real estate market is going to be that inflation is coming back, and inflation is going to move the price of all tangible assets. Gold will go up, silver will go up, real estate will go up because they're not making any more of it. And somehow I'm going to have to change this around so that we see that at the very peak, yes, it was 1.3, but it was really 1.4 when we adjust the inflation in between now and then. So it's come down more like 20% than the 16% that it shows right here. So the market is definitely in transition, but it's all, well, the interest rate. Okay, this is the final one where we've seen an uptick again in price. Now we're defying gravity, but we're not defying the trend. The trend of a recovery 3 out of 4 times would mean by 2-year period you're at 90%, back to 90%. And the only time it didn't do that was in 86 to 96, and I still think that's where we're going. Now I'd love to be wrong, but I think that we're going to see the Bank of Canada and the Federal Reserve fudge their numbers, where everybody in January is saying, oh, we're going to see 6 cuts in the year, and we're going to see 3 cuts in the year. Now they're saying we're going to see 1 cut in the year. So many people will be disappointed by the reduction in interest rates because the underlying data is not showing a reduction in interest rates. So we have an election coming. They're going to have to do something, either fudge the numbers or they can change the way they calculate it. And if we look at how the Toronto Real Estate Board puts out a release that says seasonally adjusted numbers, not seasonally adjusted numbers, month to month compared to a year ago, and quarterly, and puts the most positive spin on every one of those 2 metrics when you keep on changing the starting point and the finishing point of each one. So if you're out looking, that it's hard to buy and easy to sell, and there's no changing that. So you just have to decide, if you want to sell, where are you going? If it's an estate sale, well, you're not going anywhere. The money is just going to be divided up between the heirs. But if you want to buy another house, decide, do you sell yours first? Are you guaranteed that that's going to go ahead, boom, and you'll have enough time, because we have a season here with the school year when the buyer wants to take possession, that you'll be able to acquire something else. I think you want to know where you're going first. So we're trying to cram a lot of stuff into a short period of time, and I think we did.
Well, that's what it is. And the advice that you gave there pretty much makes sense. And that's the advice you'd get on pretty much all of our episodes, except the only changes here are the market dynamics and understand what has happened. Robert, one final thing is that in our office meetings, we've been hearing mixed sentiments about the market. I mean, of course, as realtors, yeah, obviously everybody would love to be optimistic about this market, but we put a realistic point of view into this because you should all be aware, transparently aware of what's happening in the market. And so, we had an early start of the year where there were multiple offers and of course inventory challenges and new listings challenges. And now there's sort of a mixed sentiment in the market. Robert, there was an article that you also sent to me, and I'll see if we can link it in here as well. But just to touch on that a bit, what are buyers waiting for? What should drive seller strategies? And, when we're talking about this again, maybe in the fall, are we going to see a fall that's going to be much busier than the spring because of these anticipated adjustments in the interest rates? Or are we going to see a whole year where it's just going to be just like last year, where everything is just constantly transitioning?
Okay. Well, that article was, I guess someone gets paid by the number of words that they put down on paper that gets published. Because if you get a poll of regular people, their answers are virtue signaling. Their answers are not sincere evaluations of the marketplace. They are uninformed consumers who are saying something because they think that's what the pollster wants to hear. It's all virtue signaling. That that poll was saying that some people are doing nothing, and a few more of them are doing nothing than they were. In another or age group, there's fewer of them that are doing nothing. And another one, they're waiting for interest rates. Now, what are they waiting for interest rates to come down to 2%? Come down to 0%? It's a great headline, but it doesn't tell you a darn thing. So what's going to happen this year is the same as last year, except people are tougher than they were last year. And sellers are not capitulating. The big thing that's happened difference is getting rid of the investors. There are no spec buyers. And as we identified before in our 5 categories, there are investors who are underwater and investors who are in the money. If they've owned it for 15 years, they own it for 5 years, and they're in the money. Well, they're not in a panic to dump it as long as they have a tenant that's paying the freight and the interest rates that have gone up don't knock their income and expenses too far out of line. But the people who bought late or are dumb about it or are doing it for the first time by the skin of their teeth and everything had to go right in order for it to work out, they bail. They're going power sale. They're losing the places, and it's terrible. But in an investment, you got to be ready to lose. And if you bet everything on one thing and it didn't work out, well, you got bad advice. So the investors are gone. It's back to normal.
There you have it. So straight up advice. Thanks for watching this episode of Real Estate Chat. Make sure you put into the comments what you think, how you feel, what your sentiments are, and where you're going to be watching the eclipse on Monday, April 8th. Don't look directly at the sun without those special glasses. Thanks for watching. Take care and bye for now.
See you after the eclipse.